Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'll be doing episode 63, The Battle of the Badge. The episode begins with Ash and the gang finally arriving in Viridian City. Man, this was a really short time compared to the wait with Cinnabar Island, right? But anyways, Ash and the gang remark how it's been a year since they've been in Viridian, indicating that the entire series up to this point has taken place over the course of a single year, even though Ash is still 10. They then happily realize that the Pokemon Center that was destroyed in Viridian City back during episode 2 has been rebuilt during this point. Hopefully it didn't take them a year to do so. Ash and the gang then arrive at the Viridian City gym, with Ash remarking how he could win no matter fucking what, as he had Pikachu by his side, and together they were a Deus Ex Machina duo. Pikachu even starts a little fire to get Ash fired up. Get it? Funny? Just then, Gary pulls up in his pimped-out ride with all his bitches as usual, and is very surprised to see Ash there, stating how this gym was only meant for super strong trainers. Ash rebuttals that he is strong, and was about to get this Earth badge, which would be his 8th badge, so he could enter the Pokemon League. This leads Gary to simply laugh, though, as he shows Ash his case of 10 badges, even though you only needed 8, stating he just felt like getting extra for fun, and adding that he got 8 ages ago. And he simply wanted to see if the gym leader wanted the honor of battling him, not the other way around. Gary then gets led into the gym by the guards, with Ash and the gang trying to follow in, but the guards block their way in, stating that only one trainer was allowed in at a time, which pisses Ash the fuck off, as he states how Gary always got to be one step ahead of him, and it wasn't fucking fair. The guards do not budge to Ash's complaining whatsoever, as they still hold their sharp-ass axes. I don't even know if that's legal, bro. Misty proceeds to remind Ash that Gary has always fucking been one step ahead of him, and this was nothing new, so why the fuck was he crying his eyes out and complaining, like he should be used to it by now? This just leads Ash to get even more depressed, crouching down to a ball in the corner in shame. But thankfully, Togepi comes up to him and tries his best to comfort him by climbing on his shoulder. Unfortunately, Ash is so occupied by his depression that he doesn't even bother to look back at the Pokemon on his shoulder, so just feeling something there, he assumes that it's Pikachu. Eventually, when he does look back, though, he is shocked to see Togepi, and he's so shocked that he jumps and sends Togepi flying into the air, bouncing off of a flag. As if this wasn't bad enough, Togepi then bounces off the flag and into a Fearo's mouth, and the Fearo flies off with it, much to Ash and the gang's shock and dismay. Misty is especially pissed off, fucking grabbing Ash in a chokehold, blaming him for the entire situation. And I mean, rightfully so. If he wasn't so fucking depressed, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Don't let Gary get to your head, man. Meanwhile, Team Rocket is spying, looking for Ash and the gang on a rooftop, when suddenly, the Fearo flies by and accidentally drops Togepi on James's ass. James accuses Meowth of kicking him, and the two of them get into a serious argument. Meowth's like, I didn't fucking kick you, bitch. I don't like your ass. But then suddenly, Togepi appears, having been dropped by the Fearo, immediately right in between Meowth and James, which stops them from fighting, as they don't want to run Togepi over. They didn't want to run Togepi over, because they realized that Togepi was probably rare of some kind, and they could finally give it to Giovanni as a present, and finally get that goddamn promotion that they wanted. Jessie fantasizes over this, and then proceeds to try and grab the Togepi with her hand, but Togepi manages to walk away, and walks across a plank toward the next skyscraper building. The plank being there because it was being used as supplies due to the building being under construction. Jessie panics at how fucking dangerous this was for the Togepi, as something that small would get fucking decimated if it fell, and she proceeds to then follow Togepi to the next building across the plank, despite being way bigger and heavier, meaning that the plank would obviously give out if she walked on it. The plank does give out, and Jessie falls the fuck to the ground, leading James and Meowth to run down the stairs of the rooftop and try and catch her before she hits the ground. And they actually do somehow make it there before she hits the ground. But being the incompetent fools that they are, they fail to catch her, so she still hits the ground at fucking Mach 80 speed, creating a huge fucking hole in the ground. She then proceeds to climb out of this hole, not even being injured from falling somehow, and having even more luck for once, she then manages to catch Togepi as it falls to the ground in her hands, meaning they can take it to Giovanni just as they had planned. Man, I wonder how Togepi actually managed to fall off of the plank. I mean, it looked like it had enough room to walk on it. Although I guess it was clumsy, it did almost always fall into shit. Maybe that's what the purpose of all those scenes with Pikachu saving it have been. However, Jessie didn't have all the luck, as her putting her hands out to catch Togepi after it had fallen means that she had to let go of the hole that she was climbing out of, so she had to climb back out of it. Meanwhile, Gary had entered the Viridian gym and was immediately cheered on by all of his cheerleaders as he bragged to the gym leader that he was the best fucking trainer in all of Pallet Town. The gym leader, who you can't even fully see because he was so mysterious and shrouded in the darkness of the room, accepts the challenge as his guards move out of the way, giving access to the stadium and informing that the battle would be 3 versus 3. The battle begins with Gary sending out his Nidoking and the gym leader sending out his Golem, and the two Pokemon then proceed to tackle each other, with Nidoking's tackle being stronger and knocking the Golem out in one hit, hitting it into a wall and causing the gym leader to return it into its Pokeball. The gym leader then immediately sends out his second Pokemon, being a Kingler, who immediately starts by using a crab hammer on the Nidoking, but Nidoking manages to dodge before the attack hits, much to Gary's relief, as he uses his Pokedex and finds out that Kingler was the evolved form of Krabby, meaning it was a water Pokemon, so that put Nidoking at a disadvantage. It's for this reason that he decides to substitute out his Nidoking for his second Pokemon, being an Arcanine, and then he has Arcanine use Takedown and a Fire Spin, which sends the Kingler flying backwards. All of Gary's cheerleaders are amazed by these moves, as they proceed to loudly cheer him on, louder than even before, and Gary remarks, "Oh ladies, you guys have seen nothing yet," and then shows off even more as he has Arcanine use a Fire Blast, which somehow manages to fucking take out the Kingler, despite the Kingler being a water Pokemon. The gym leader is not panicking whatsoever, despite being on his last Pokemon, as he decides to reveal himself as he steps out from the shadows, revealing a shady-looking businessman. He assures Gary that his previous two Pokemon were merely weak bastards in comparison to his final Pokemon, which he wanted to test out. Even Gary being Gary starts to panic a little bit at hearing this, wondering what the fuck this gym leader could have up his sleeve, when the gym leader then snaps his fingers, which causes a door to magically open, revealing a mysterious Pokemon covered in armor all over. Obviously, never having seen anything like this before, Gary wants to use his Pokedex on it, but before he can even do so, the Pokemon then levitates Arcanine into the air using a psychic attack, and throws him against the wall, almost knocking him out. Gary then manages to pull out his Pokedex, but it's utterly useless, stating that this Pokemon wasn't even a Pokemon apparently. The gym leader confirms that this was the first time that this Pokemon had experienced a battle ever, so it was not going to have any data in the Pokedex. He then taunts Gary by saying that Gary should use two Pokemon at once if he wants to even think of standing a chance against this thing. Gary initially declines, being the prideful bastard that he was, stating that he wasn't afraid of anything, but he eventually gives in, after remembering how his Arcanine got absolutely wrecked before. Even despite the battle being 2 against 1, though, the mysterious new Pokemon simply makes its eyes glow yet again as it uses another psychic attack and lifts both Arcanine and Nidoking back up into the air with its psychic attack, as the gym leader then states how his Pokemon was genuinely unfucking beatable, leading Gary to freak the fuck out. That's right, Gary was actually panicking for once. We don't get to see the outcome of the battle yet, though, as we then cut away to Team Rocket, talking to the gym leader, indicating that we had jumped forward in time, skipping past the rest of Gary's battle. Why were Jesse and James talking to the gym leader? Well, it's because they were going to give him Togepi, as it's revealed that the gym leader was in fact Giovanni, their boss. How did a notorious crime lord get a spot as a gym leader? I guess we'll never fucking know. Anyways, when Jesse and James present Giovanni with Togepi, they expect him to react excitedly, but instead, he just stares at it blankly, believing it to be a weak little bastard, and he questions Team Rocket what it can do. Team Rocket obviously have no idea, as they've never experienced Togepi battle before, which leads Giovanni to accuse them of being fucking stupid and incompetent, not able to catch an actual rare Pokemon, after months and months and months. Actually, Giovanni, it's been over a year of work. He slams his hand on the table in anger, ready to punish Team Rocket for their failure somehow, but then his phone rings, and he immediately dashes off with his Persian, after being informed by someone that he works with that there was an accident. Absolutely furious. Before he goes, though, he realizes that he needs someone to help man the gym in case someone came by while he was gone, and he decides to give Jesse and James one last opportunity to prove themselves by running the gym, not having anyone else to run it, and he then gives them 3 of his Pokemon to use before running off. Jesse and James are shocked at Giovanni suddenly giving them something good as opposed to a punishment, but they cheer. This was kind of like a promotion, in a way. Meanwhile, during Team Rocket and Giovanni's argument, Togepi had taken the chance to walk out of the door, escaping, leaving Jesse and James unaware, but I'm sure even if they were aware, they wouldn't care at this point, as Giovanni clearly didn't want it. Speaking of Giovanni, he has since arrived in a dungeon, implying that's where the phone call came from, and he walks past all of his Pokemon as he walks to his destination, revealing that he keeps all his Pokemon stuck in jail cells when he didn't need them to battle. He then reaches his destination, being the mysterious Pokemon that he had used earlier. He kept this Pokemon especially detained, with cables and everything, knowing how dangerous it was, but he then swiftly removed the cables with a machine, and told the Pokemon that he had a very, very, very urgent task for it, implying that the person who requested help with an accident over the phone required this Pokemon to help it. You think the Pokemon would appear happy that it was just freed from confinement, right? Well, no, it just stands there menacingly, as its eyes glow, implying it was ready to use its psychic powers. Meanwhile, Ash and the gang were still looking for Togepi, not knowing where it went, and Misty was still as angry at Ash as ever for what has happened. So when they all eventually meet back up at the gym, having failed to find Togepi, Misty wastes no time in putting Ash in yet another chokehold, absolutely wanting to kill his ass. But then Brock demands that they stop and be quiet, not just because he was annoyed at Misty's yelling, but because he could hear Togepi's cry. It was coming from inside the gym door somehow. Ash and the gang managed to open up the gym doors, due to the guards likely being busy right after the battle with Gary, and Togepi walks out, much to Misty and everyone else's happiness, as Misty grabs it and twirls it around, hugging it. Brock's happiness is short-lived, though, as he then questions, rightfully, how the fuck Togepi got into the gym in the first place if they weren't there to drop him off. This leads Ash and the gang to go further into the gym, wanting to investigate how Togepi somehow got from a Fearo's mouth to inside the gym, when they immediately find Gary after walking a few steps. He and his cheerleaders were all knocked out unconscious, implying that something terrible had happened to them, and Gary had actually lost the gym battle. You think Ash would be happy at this, that Gary actually lost at something, but no, Ash is actually concerned, despite hating Gary. Man, what a nice guy. Ash manages to wake Gary up, and Brock manages to wake up all the cheerleaders, obviously due to wanting to get closer to them rather than Gary. And when Gary awakes, he awakes in horror, stating that he did in fact lose, and that the Pokemon he faced was so fucking strong, but not only that, it was evil as well. Ash argues that there couldn't be an evil Pokemon, due to him believing that there was good in every Pokemon, but even he starts to doubt himself after seeing Gary's state. I mean, Gary was usually fucking overconfident as fuck, but now he was like a super pessimist, as he stated that no one would ever be able to beat the Pokemon, just laying there defeated. Just then, all of Gary's cheerleaders then proceed to cry in sadness at both Gary's unhappiness and just the fact that Gary actually lost a battle, and this annoys Ash and the gang to no end, as Ash and Brock cover their ears, and Misty yells at them to quit crying, stating that if she cried every time Ash lost, then she would have fucking run out of tears by now, becoming a waterwork. Ash then falls over in embarrassment at this, as he wanted a good shot with Gary's cheerleaders, you know? With Gary losing, maybe they would have gone to someone else now, and maybe he could have been that person. But now that Misty said that, they weren't going to go with a loser. Damn. Due to the amount of ruckus that Ash had caused with his embarrassment, this alerts Jesse and James, who immediately turn on the lights to the gym and start reciting their motto, only to be cut off by Ash and the gang, who are confused as fuck to why Team Rocket was in the gym, and state that their motto was boring as fuck and was getting old. Team Rocket then rebuttals that their motto was not getting old, especially since they had just decided to add something new to it, something relating to the fact that they were now the gym leaders of the Viridian City Gym. They then proceed to add on a little bit to their motto, with Ash and the gang simply cutting them off again, questioning in shock if Team Rocket really was the Viridian City gym leaders. Jesse responds by pulling out the gym badge, the Earth badge, leading Brock to then switch his question to why Team Rocket had a gym, which is what they were more curious of. Because, okay, anyone could just buy a gym, right? Like, I'm sure you could just, if you had enough money, just purchase a gym. But why did Team Rocket even want one? Team Rocket, not wanting to reveal that they were the replacement gym leaders and wanting to make themselves seem more important than they were, state that it was a very classified secret that if they told Ash and the gang, they would not be able to comprehend, as it was beyond their level. Jesse and James then whisper to each other to imply that they were discussing the secret that they didn't want to let Ash and the gang in on, and therefore make them pissed off. But Meowth simply laughs and reveals to Ash and the gang that Jesse and James were just playing around, and that there really was no secret reasoning behind it after all. Meowth revealed this simply because he wanted to do a little fucking trolling with Jesse and James, probably a bit ashamed at them, due to not being able to successfully convince Giovanni to take in Togepi. But this trolling backfires on Meowth, as Jesse punishes him by sending him flying into the air by kicking him. Jesse and James, likely wanting to get back on Giovanni's good side, and knowing that them potentially winning a gym battle could help them do so, decide to take on Ash in a gym battle, with Jesse being the one to actually battle, as they weren't going to do 2 against 1. Which, I don't know why they didn't, it seems like something they would do. Jesse then pushes a button that raises 2 platforms in the gym, one being green for the challenger, and one being red for the gym leader, and instructs Ash to step on the green one. Brock, knowing the danger with Team Rocket and buttons, informs Ash that the platform could be a trap of some kind, arguing that Team Rocket likely wouldn't want to just have a gym battle, but Ash decides to step up anyway, desperate as ever to get his 8th badge. Jessie, not knowing the Pokemon that Giovanni had left for her to use, decides to send all of them out, revealing that she had Kingler, Machamp, and Rhydon at her disposal. Jessie decides to send out Machamp first, and Ash decides to send out Squirtle first, and Machamp immediately goes in with a whole bunch of karate chops. These karate chops don't just harm Squirtle though, but Ash as well, as Ash proceeds to get shocked with every karate chop that lands. This leads James to reveal that he had rigged Ash's platform so that whenever his Pokemon got hurt, Ash would get hurt as well, thereby weakening Ash and making him unable to think properly, meaning he would more likely lose the battle. Brock called it, he knew that there would be some sort of trick involved. Gary then states that there was no way Ash would be able to win at this rate, which motivates Ash to persevere through the pain, wanting to prove Gary wrong, so he sends out his second Pokemon, Bulbasaur, retreating Squirtle, since it was already severely weakened. Jesse then decides to retreat the Machamp, and instead send out a Kingler for some reason, even though Kingler had the disadvantage, but hey, it's Jesse for you, she probably didn't know that. Ash then instructs Bulbasaur to use Vine Whip, but Jesse counters by having Kingler use Harden, which makes Kingler's shell so hard that the Vine isn't able to do any damage. Jesse then follows up by using Bubble, which hits Bulbasaur, and despite the attack being weak against Bulbasaur, Ash still feels an immense shock afterwards. Seeing Ash going through all this pain, Gary advises him that it was probably best that he just gave up, adding that all of these Pokemon seemed way too strong, but Ash refuses, stating that if his Pokemon had to go through this pain all the time, then he could go through it this once. Gary actually respects what Ash said for once, stating that maybe Ash could actually do it. Wow, a rare moment of non-dickness for Gary. Ash then decides to send out his Pidgeotto as his 3rd Pokemon and have it use Quick Attack, and the Quick Attack actually manages to hit Jesse's Pokemon, which was now a Rhydon, as Jessie had switched out her Pokemon as well. Brock and Gary then spot electric sparks start to come out of Jesse's platform, and they inform Ash, but Ash was too busy with the battle, as he gets Pidgeotto to successfully hit Rhydon again, this time with a more powerful attack, Double Edge. Due to this attack being more powerful, Jesse's platform doesn't just start to emit sparks, but a full-on shock, and Jessie gets shocked just as Ash had. This obviously pisses her off, and she questions to James why the fuck she was getting shocked, with James revealing that he had installed the shocker on both sides. Jesse gets even more mad at this, questioning why the fuck he would do something like this, with James further stating that he just didn't think it would matter, and he must have just been fucking bored, and was like, you know what, I'm just gonna add this on both of them. Like, I would argue that maybe it's because he didn't know which platform Ash was gonna be standing on, but Jesse knew that the green one was the challenger platform, and she likely informed James, so like really, he has no out here. I can't give James an out, he's just a fucking idiot. Jessie panics as she was losing and didn't want to get fucking shocked anymore, but then Meowth reveals a remote control, stating that he had also implemented inside of the platforms the ability for both of them to explode. Damn, I guess Brock was really right about the booby traps. Anyways, Meowth goes to press the green button so he can blow up Ash's platform, therefore fucking killing him and forcing him to lose the match. But Gary, of all people, tackles Meowth and stops him from pressing the button, flinging the remote from his hand in the process. Damn, I guess Gary had a redemption arc. With Meowth's plan failing, Jessie was still desperate, so she decided to send out her Arbok and have James send out his Weezing and have them attack. Misty comments how this was obviously cheating, as Jessie had already used 3 Pokemon, but Ash just decides to cheat as well, making it even, as he sends out his 4th Pokemon, Pikachu, and has him use Thunderbolt on not only Arbok and Weezing, but on Rhydon, Kingler, and Machamp as well, as Jessie had then sent them out to give her even more of an advantage. As a result of the Thunderbolt, Weezing and Arbok are sent flying into Jessie, as Jessie gets a huge fucking wave of shock pain, and all of Giovanni's 3 Pokemon then take the opportunity of Jessie being distracted to run away, not wanting to be at risk of abuse any longer. Well, at least from Jessie and James, because, I mean, they were just going back to Giovanni. He was obviously going to abuse him if he keeps him in fucking cages. But, anyways, Ash then celebrates his win as Misty and Brock congratulate him, along with Gary's fangirls. That's right, Gary's fangirls had now become Ash fangirls, at least for today, which definitely surprised Ash, as he was worried about them not liking him when Misty called him out, right? So, good for you, Ash. Perhaps the most surprising thing, though, is that Gary has a bit of a change of heart as well, finally admitting that he thought Ash was at least a little bit of a good trainer, though he probably just did this out of a bit of obligation due to the fact that Ash had at least won the badge and he hadn't, even though he had to actually fight Giovanni, while Ash had to only fight Team Rocket. Gary isn't all about pleasing Ash, though, as he still states that the Pokemon that Giovanni had was still impossible for him, or anyone for that matter, to be able to beat. Meanwhile, Jessie is super fucking butthurt that she lost, and she refuses to take any accountability, solely blaming it on James and his fucking idiocy with having both platforms be able to administer shocks. She then proceeds to beat up James, in addition to Meowth, due to Meowth making the controller be able to blow up both of the platforms, as the controller had 2 buttons, one red and one green. It's different if it was only the green platform, but no, it appeared that Meowth had made both able to explode, as he said, which was just as idiotic as what James did. To be honest, I think this beating was justified. I mean, like, come on, James and Meowth. Like, I literally can't give them an out here. This was literally just a fucking stupid idea. Why wouldn't you just have Ash be assigned to one platform, and then boom, one platform explodes? Jessie is still extremely butthurt after the loss, even after Meowth and James apologized to her multiple times, wanting the beating to stop. But she's so butthurt that she decides not to give Ash the badge, despite him winning. Ash immediately argues against this, demanding otherwise. But Jessie still denies him, even though he technically beat her fair and square, because Jessie had cheated as well, so it was totally fair. Ash and Jessie proceed to get into a huge argument, but then this argument is cut short as Meowth looks around for the lost remote in order to blow up Ash's platform and therefore get on Jessie's good side again. But when he locates it, he finds that Togepi had picked it up, finding it just on the floor randomly, and the Togepi was now playing with it, fiddling with it, not knowing the consequences of what could happen. Meowth panics at this, as Togepi ignorantly presses both buttons, which in turn blows up both of the platforms, causing a major fucking explosion in the gym, which sends Team Rocket, who was standing on the red platform, blasting off into the sky, and in the process, Jessie drops the Earth Badge, and the Earth Badge lands back in the gym, with Ash catching it. Ash had done it. He officially had all 8 badges he needed to enter the Pokemon League, although this last badge was definitely unconventional. Also, I guess I should explain why Ash wasn't blown up when the green platform was blown up, but that's because he had already walked off the platform when he won the battle, so he wasn't on it when it exploded. Anyways, Ash and the gang, particularly Pikachu, obviously want to celebrate Ash getting his last badge, but they don't have the opportunity to right now, as Gary's like, yo guys, with both of the platforms blown up, this whole place is going down. And going down it was indeed. The entire gym was fucking collapsing in on itself. Fortunately, everyone is able to escape in time, but the gym does in fact absolutely become just a pile of ruins after this. Gary and his cheerleaders then depart in their car as Ash and the gang continue on their journey. They walk through the forest, with Brock pondering if they'll ever see the Pokemon that Gary saw, likely wanting to see it due to being a breeder, but Ash states that he didn't really care about that Pokemon right now, and he still didn't even fully believe that it was like Gary said it was, as he didn't believe in evil Pokemon still. He then focused on what he truly cared about, being the fact that he had finally earned 8 badges, and he was fucking proud of himself, stating that now the only place that he had left to go on his journey was the Pokemon League. Ash then realizes, though, that he doesn't know where the Pokemon League is located, so Brock suggests that they go back to Pallet Town and go talk to Professor Oak about it, as he would probably know. This meant the gang's next destination was not quite the Pokemon League yet, but Pallet Town.